Welcome to our summer Discord webinar for the EcoL Discord channel. My name's Jen, and I guess I'm the face behind the EcoL. This webinar is going to be focused on reverse engineering products. Why do we do it? What do you need? Experience, duping, and more. Hosting this webinar are three cosmetic chemists who are so generous to donate their expertise here. Jane from Making Skincare, Annalisa from Skin Perspective, and Christine from Formulate Natural Skincare. If you're not already, be sure to follow these three on social media. They're all on Instagram, a few are on Facebook, and a few are also on YouTube. If you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, then leave it in the webinar text channel and we'll either answer during the webinar in that text channel or afterwards. So if you watch this after, this webinar is also going to be published on YouTube following. So if you have to duck out for any reason, just check back in the webinar text channel and I'll be publishing it there. But if you have any questions after, you can either leave your questions in the webinar text channel or you can leave it in the YouTube comments. We might be more likely to see them here on Discord. Thank you so much for joining our Discord channel. I hope you guys enjoy this webinar as much as I did. Big thank you to Jane, Annalisa, and Christine for being so generous with your time and expertise. Enjoy!
Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar. I'm Annalisa Branca from Skin Perspective. Today, together with my colleagues Jane and Christine, we will be presenting part 2 of a webinar on lotions and creams. Part 1 was all about lotions and creams and how to analyze them. You can find the replay of that webinar on the EcoWell YouTube channel. In this presentation, I will explain what is reverse engineering, why we reverse engineer, what we need to reverse engineer, and what are the reliable sources we can use. Jane will then talk about practical considerations, ingredient lists, functional categories, and substitutions. Christine will talk about label appeal and hero ingredients, and some final considerations on substitutions, replacements, and regulations before actually reverse engineering Also Simple Water Cream from Krave Beauty and Hydro Boost Moisturizing Hand Cream Gel from Neutrogena. How to reverse engineer existing products. Reverse engineering consists of recreating an existing product by starting with an ingredient list and a sample of that product. It requires detailed knowledge of each ingredient, its function and percent of use, as well as detailed consideration of processing methods. Why would we reverse engineer? Well, from a brand perspective, a client might want to better understand competition and what is behind the performance and feel of a competing product. Another reason is that some brands develop products with manufacturers but don't own the formulation. So if for any reason they need to change manufacturer, they may ask a cosmetic chemist to reverse engineer their product. Reverse engineering is also used for improving existing competitor products. For example, if a product performs well but doesn't feel or smell nice, or to mix qualities like, for example, the skin feel of a product but the viscosity of another. Reverse engineering is quite common because when we want to develop a new product, starting from a benchmark sample is essential to make sure formulators and brands are on the same page in regards to characteristics like skin feel, texture, viscosity, etc. Why would we reverse engineer from the formulator perspective? Reverse engineering can be used by the formulator as a tool to learn about new ingredients and implement new technology, or to learn how to meet specific price and budget restrictions. When reverse engineering a product for a client, it's important to keep in mind budget and time frame for development, but also the brand's philosophy, especially if there are some of those ingredients that are to be avoided. It's important to keep in mind, like very important, that there are products that are protected by patents, so a word of caution on that aspect. It's not good practice in the industry to reverse engineer and copy a product exactly as it is, and it's not even a good strategy for a brand as the product wouldn't really offer anything new, so there wouldn't be a unique selling point. What do we need to reverse engineer a product? We need the ingredient list to determine the ingredients used, and based on those, we can start to narrow down the percentages of use. We also need a sample and ideally packaging. From those, we can find relevant parameters like look and smell, pH, viscosity, shelf life, and storage conditions. Jane and Christine will have a more detailed look at these. Ideally, we would also have formulating experience, so we would have already experimented with several materials including several humectants, emollients, hot and cold process emulsifiers, and gelling agents. As formulators, we would also know the basic structure of the product, so what ingredients are essential for its stability and function. To acquire this knowledge, it takes many years of studying, practicing, and experimenting with materials. So, generally speaking, reverse engineering is an advanced skill. However, for some people, it can also be a good way of practicing, though keep in mind that it can be quite expensive. There are several resources, but not all of them are reliable to gather information on ingredients and knowledge on formulating. So, let me share some very useful resources like books on cosmetic science, online resources, and online cosmetic education. So here are some very good cosmetic science books. The first one is the Williams with Chemistry and Technology of the Cosmetics and Toiletries Industry. Then we have Iwata with Formula Ingredients and Production of Cosmetics. And we have the Kirk-Offmer with Chemical Technology of Cosmetics, Mitsui with New Cosmetic Science, and then we have the Bible, which is the Harry's Cosmetology, especially the 8th edition is the most commonly found. But we also have some online resources that are quite good. One is the blog from Susan, which is the Swift Crafty Monkey. Then we have the Making Skincare from Jane, that is here presenting on this webinar. Then we have the Chemist Corner from Perry, and of course the Eco Well with Jen. There is also the possibility of attending online education programs like the SCS Diploma in Cosmetic Science or the Diploma of Personal Care Formulation from the Institute of Personal Care Science. But there are also universities that are offering online programs like Rutgers that offers an MBS in Personal Care Science. So that's a Master in Business and Science. So there's also the business part. And the University of Cincinnati offers a Master in Science in Cosmetic Science, or it offers a Cosmetic Science certificate. There are also other programs around the world that require in-person attendance, and you can find those at the IFSCC website, and here is the URL where to find them. So now I will leave the word to Jane that will speak more in detail about reverse engineering.
Thank you, Annalisa. I am Jane Barber from Making Skincare, and I will be covering practical considerations, how ingredients are listed, categorizing ingredients, and making substitutions. One important practical consideration to bear in mind when reverse engineering is formulating having regard to ingredient availability. There is no point reverse engineering a product and then later realizing that the manufacturer does not have the materials in stock already, and those ingredients have such a high minimum order cost and you will only end up using a fraction of it. For example, you might only need 1 kilogram of an ingredient, but the ingredient is only available to be purchased at 25 kilograms. It is worth choosing a manufacturer which already has as many of the ingredients in stock as possible. For ingredients which the formulator is forced to buy in, formulators would consider the minimum order quantity and cost, and can substitute for other ingredients if that saves ingredient wastage and cost. We will examine this later in the webinar. When choosing a manufacturer, another key consideration is their capabilities. For example, if you are manufacturing lip balms, you will need a cooling tunnel. Not many manufacturers have this. Products take on average 3 times the time to make in the factory as opposed to in the lab, so they should be easily scalable. If the product you are intending to reverse engineer contains ingredients which are challenging to work with, for example, require a separate vessel for premixing, or have longer than usual mixing times, this will impact the cost, time, and possibly stability. When the client has chosen a benchmark to reverse engineer, the first step is to analyze the ingredient list on the packaging. Legally, the list of ingredients has to be listed in descending order of weight, so the first ingredient listed has the highest concentration. Ingredients which are present at less than 1% are listed in any order. It is therefore important to figure out where this 1% might be. This varies according to the product, but might, for instance, be before the botanicals, extracts, and preservatives. Christine will go into this in more detail later. Colorants which aren't hair colorants are listed in any order at the end. If the raw material is sold as a mixture, each individual ingredient making up that mixture is listed separately, again, in order of concentration. In Europe, if the product contains any of the 26 allergens listed in Annex 3 of the Cosmetics Regulations 1223/2009, they have to be listed in the ingredient list if their concentration exceeds 0.001% for leave-on products and 0.01% for rinse-off products. Bearing in mind these practical considerations, assuming you are very familiar with the typical structure of this type of product and have experimented with a lot of ingredients, as Annalisa mentioned, a formulator would put the ingredients into functional categories, as Annalisa and I did in part 1 of the previous webinar. You can find this video on the EcoWell's YouTube channel under the name Lotions and Creams How to Analyze. For example, if you see the words xanthan gum or carbomer, these ingredients are thickeners and stabilizers. But do be aware that some ingredients have the same INCI, but can be very different. For example, the ingredient could be listed as acrylates C10 to 30 alkyl acrylate cross polymer, but the ingredient with that same INCI name could be trade name Pemulen, which is a strong polymeric emulsifier, or it could be Carbopol Ultras 20, which does not have those properties. Another example, glycerol stearate, a common ingredient in emulsions, comes in different grades. They perform differently with various melting points, differing skin feel, and HLB values. As mentioned earlier, the formulator will most likely need to make some ingredient substitutions. A common example would be replacing the benchmark's preservative system for another system, but the formulator needs to know how this would impact the end product. For example, if the formulator wants to include organic acids, the pH would need to be 5 or slightly below, and this might affect other ingredients in a negative way. For example, if the product contains thickeners and emulsifiers which need a higher pH to work, such as Simugel e.g. The formulator would also bear in mind shelf life considerations, replacing ingredients which have a short shelf life with those which are more stable, or adding antioxidants and changing the packaging to airless. I will now pass you over to Christine, who will be covering marketing-led label appeal ingredients and walk you through the process of how to dupe 2 popular skincare products.
Hi, my name is Christine from Formulate Natural Cosmetics, and I will be covering label appeal and hero ingredients using two commercial products as examples. The first product is Krave Beauty's Oh So Simple Water Cream, and the second product is Neutrogena's Hydro Boost Moisturizing Hand Cream and Gel. Products sold in the stores are copies of existing products which have been reverse engineered. So in order for the product not to look the same as the original, and for the brand to be able to create a marketing story, brands will research label appeal marketing-led hero ingredients. These are ingredients which a brand will source as they sound appealing to their target market. These ingredients are usually expensive, can be sensitive to oxidation, and are added at only a tiny percentage. Even if they were added at a much higher percentage, usually these ingredients do not have any functional benefits. For example, a brand will remove the botanical extracts in the benchmark product and replace these label ingredients with their own. All of these extracts have no benefit anyway, other than providing the brand with a marketing story to help sell the product. In fact, many products only include 0.001% of these extracts and still highlight them as a hero ingredient. Here are a few important things to consider in regards to substitution and replacement of ingredients and following regulatory requirements in your region. You can substitute the functional ingredients with ingredients already in the factory, and if you have to buy the ingredients as they aren't in the factory, you cannot substitute them. Make sure to detail your thinking behind choosing the substitution and factor in ease of scaling up, MOQ, cost per kilogram, etc. You can also replace the label appeal ingredients with stock the factory already has on hand, or with an ingredient with low MOQ. For example, emollients and botanical oils can easily be replaced with caprylic cupric triglyceride with no effect on the formula while reducing cost. Should you choose to incorporate label appeal or hero ingredients for marketing purposes, bear in mind factors such as MOQ, cost, impact on formula, and add a minimal amount. Finally, once the formula is complete, samples must undergo a 3-month stability test and 28-day preservative efficacy test before being placed in the market. Also, ensure that you follow the regulatory requirements and processes for packaging, marketing, and labeling of the products in your region. The first product we are reverse engineering is Krave Beauty's Oh So Simple Water Cream. We will break down the ingredients, go over our thinking behind reverse engineering this product, then present the sample dupe formula, and finally demonstrate how to make this product. When duplicating a formula, first establish the 1% line, which in this case would be squalane, as it is an expensive ingredient and would most likely be 1% or less at most. Identifying label appeal ingredients and preservatives can be helpful in establishing this line. There are a number of label appeal ingredients in this cream. These ingredients are added for market appeal and usually include active ingredients, botanical extracts, aloe, and hydrosols. Due to cost and short shelf life, these ingredients are added at typically between 0.1 to 0.5%. It may go higher for some ingredients like squalane in this case, but sometimes they may be added at even lower amounts below 0.1%. These label appeal ingredients are number 1, expensive, number 2, don't add to the functionality of the formula, and finally, customers rarely notice any difference, even if they were added in at a higher percentage. You can also replace the label appeal ingredients in the benchmark. Here you should consider ingredient availability of the manufacturer, as only a tiny amount is required for the entire formula. Consider choosing a manufacturer that already stocks most or all of the ingredients in your formula. If you must purchase a new hero ingredient, factor in costs and MOQ before making any final decisions. Here is the basic formula without the label appeal ingredients. Without these label appeal ingredients, squalane, trehalose, and Avena sativa oatmeal extract, the basic formula consists of only humectants, emollients, emulsifiers, thickeners, stabilizers, preservatives, and water. Here we have the reverse engineered formula of the Krave Oh So Simple Water Cream. This product is mainly preserved with a high percentage of glycols, butylene glycol and 1,2-hexanediol. The main preservative here is 1,2-hexanediol, but we will be replacing this with hexylene glycol and a broad-spectrum preservative Euxyl K940. Trehalose and oatmeal extract are also label appeal ingredients, and oat extract, the hero ingredient, will be added minimally at 0.1%. It's also important to note that many extracts are diluted in water, alcohol, or glycerin, making the actual active percentage of the botanical extract much lower. As the extract we used here is in a base of 90% glycerin and water, the actual content of the oat extract in the formula is only 0.01% if you add 0.1% by weight. As botanical extracts such as oatmeal extract have a short shelf life, are expensive, have no benefit in the formula even if added at a much higher percentage, and can destabilize the formula, we are adding in as little as possible. The emulsifier is Aristoflex AVC, and this is paired with behenyl alcohol at 1% each to achieve a light, watery emulsion. Adding Aristoflex AVC above 1% would have yielded a much thicker emulsion, and more behenyl alcohol would have made the cream more opaque. Now we will demonstrate how to make the dupe formula. First, we are going to prepare and weigh out all the ingredients for each phase, and ingredients in powder or pellet form will be weighed using a weighing boat. These include behenyl alcohol, trehalose, and Aristoflex AVC. Then we add the water phase ingredients to a beaker. These include water, trehalose, butylene glycol, hexylene glycol, oat extract, and Euxyl K940. The oil phase ingredients go into a separate beaker. These include caprylic cupric triglyceride, squalane, behenyl alcohol, and Aristoflex AVC. Heat both phases to around 75 degrees Celsius or 167 Fahrenheit. Then mix both phases with a high shear mixer. After the ingredients are fully homogenized, we transfer the emulsion to an overhead stirrer. Wait for the emulsion to cool down to at least 45 degrees Celsius or below. Take pH at room temperature around 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. This is not a pH-sensitive formula, but we will aim to achieve a pH close to 6. You can adjust the pH with citric acid solution if the pH is too high, and sodium hydroxide solution if the pH is too low. And here is the final product. The second product we are reverse engineering is Neutrogena's Hydro Boost Moisturizing Hand Cream and Gel. As before, we will break down the ingredients, go over our thinking behind reverse engineering this product, then present the sample dupe formula, and finally demonstrate how to make this product. This hand cream doesn't contain many label appeal ingredients. Sodium hyaluronate is added to support the moisturizing claims. All other ingredients, excluding the fragrance and colorant, are functional ingredients. Here we've established cetyl alcohol as the starting point of the 1% line, as the cream has a very light, watery texture. As cetyl alcohol adds opacity and viscosity to the formula, anything above 1% could yield a more viscous cream, inconsistent with the light and transparent texture of the benchmark. Also, the US FDA classifies the use of dimethicone between 1 to 30% as an OTC drug with the skin protecting capabilities. The percentage of dimethicone must be disclosed in the label when added within this range. As the US label of this hand cream doesn't have any disclosures on dimethicone content and is not sold as an OTC drug, we can conclude that the total dimethicone content in the formula is less than 1%. Without the label appeal ingredient sodium hyaluronate, antioxidant tocopherol, fragrance and colorant. The basic formula consists of humectants, emollients, emulsifiers, thickeners, stabilizers, preservatives, and a pH adjuster. The basic formula also includes water. Here we have the reverse engineered formula for this product. Glycerin is the main humectant in the formula and the second ingredient listed after water. It is also above the 1% line before the main emollient isopropyl palmitate. The texture of the cream is also noticeably stickier than a standard cream formula, and as it must be a higher percentage than isopropyl palmitate, we are including glycerin at around 10%. Isopropyl palmitate, a light and non-greasy main emollient in the formula, is also added at a high percentage above 5%. Other emollients and thickeners are added minimally at under 1% each to achieve the light, watery, transparent texture. The cream has a water break texture, so we are pairing all of them 1000 with carbomer and sodium polyacrylate. This is because the latter two ingredients, carbomer and sodium polyacrylate, give a transparent watery gel type texture, and all of them 1000 gives a creamy, buttery, and opaque texture. Both carbomer and sodium polyacrylate are used in small percentages at around 0.5%, as they yield a very viscous texture above 1%. All of the 1000 is added at only 1% to add viscosity to the formula. Now we will demonstrate how to make the dupe formula. First, we are going to prepare and weigh out all the ingredients for each phase, and ingredients in powder or pellet form will be weighed using a weighing boat. These include sodium hyaluronate, all of them 1000, carbomer, sodium polyacrylate, and cetyl alcohol. Then we add the water phase ingredients to a beaker. These include water, glycerin, Euxyl K940, sodium hyaluronate. Next, we combine the oil phase ingredients, isopropyl palmitate, dimethicone, petrolatum, all of them 1000, cetyl alcohol, carbomer, and sodium polyacrylate in a separate beaker. Heat both phases to around 75 degrees Celsius or 167 Fahrenheit. Then mix both phases with a high shear mixer. After the ingredients are fully homogenized, we transfer the emulsion to an overhead stirrer. Wait for the emulsion to cool down to at least 45 degrees Celsius or below. Take pH at room temperature around 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. As this is a pH-sensitive formula, we will adjust the pH to above 5.5, close to 6 with the sodium hydroxide solution. You can also add a colorant to the final formula. And here is the final product. We've now come to the end of this webinar. Thank you for watching, and you can also watch the previous webinar on analyzing lotions and creams on EchoWell's YouTube channel.